Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's episode of Café con Gas. I am so excited to be here with you, and woo, I'm also warming up a little bit in the studio. The studio lights, again, if you've ever been in a studio, if you haven't, find a way. If you're a teacher, maybe do a little field trip for your kids to your local TV station or public access radio and television station. It's a really great opportunity to show children what else is going on. But yeah, the lights are really hot. So actually tonight it feels really, really, really awesome. It feels really, really good. So welcome. It's the middle of November, everybody. Last week's episode, we talked about preparing for the holidays, emotional check-in. The week before, we talked about seasonal depression. A couple really nice topics in preparation for the holiday season. I find that in the holiday season, my energy is just a little bit lower. And I just I start to go with that. And this year, I am actively not fighting that. And this year, I'm also bringing you a little new graphic. So as I talk, I brought it out too early, guys. I got a little bit too excited. As I talk, I'm going to find a little place for this, but I am really excited. So preparation for the holidays. What do the holidays mean to me? Holidays mean, fortunately, some time off from work, which I'm very, very thankful for. Remember to say thanks for things before Thanksgiving every single day. But yeah, one of the things I'm really thankful for is that time off, and I'm really looking forward to kind of going into hibernation mode with a lot of the things that I've put out in the public, like Café con Gas. My website, Twitter, some projects I've been working on, kind of hibernate and look at that. So I had a really incredible week, and I also wanted to show you guys something that I made as we talk, but I'm going to show you guys that later. Anyways, I had a really incredible week, and we're going to do a little switch for the PMP and talk about tonight's emotional check-in. Yeah, it's been, excuse me, I'm going to move myself over. There we go. Hi, I found my home. All right, so this past week has really been crazy. I've talked about student loan issue before, and in tonight's emotional check-in, we're going to talk a little bit about student loans. Student loans really swayed me this week. I have been diligently saving for a little MacBook. I did some research whether I should get a MacBook Pro or a MacBook Air. I definitely needed an update for my personal life. And so in doing that research, I came across the MacBook 11-inch, and I was really excited because I got knowledgeable. I Googled the system preferences for certain programs I really like to use. So for example, to function, Photoshop needs 10 gigabytes. I mean, not 10 gigabytes, it's about 2 gigabytes. So I did some research, and I finally realized, like, if I get the 11-inch MacBook Air, that's 258 gig, or what is it, 250 gigabytes? I'm not sure at the top of my head. But anyways, if I get that MacBook Air, I'll be all set, and I'll have all my technological needs met. So today's chart is a little bit different. So I was feeling really I'm going to do little mouse here. I was feeling really confident. So I was really feeling confident that I had done my research. I found the best bang for my buck. And then I got a phone call. So what was this phone call? I got a phone call, and I just had gotten a couple different phone calls. I knew they were from Indiana. Indiana, I said, oh, great, this is probably from student loans. Sally Mae had transferred my private loans over to a company called Navient. I didn't know what the status was because I assumed that Clearinghouse would have reported that I was already in school, and that would be deferment. Somewhere, somehow, the ball got dropped, and the money that I was going to spend on a beautiful MacBook, about 65% of it went to this loan payment, and all of a sudden I had no money to pay for this computer. What did this leave me? Pretty freaking anxious, horrified, and enraged. I was a little bit of horrified and enraged, and then I started going really deep into feeling resentful and going into a little bit of a horrified mode. It was just a mess. I was just a mess. So what did I do? I took a deep breath. Pause, take a deep breath. So I took a deep breath, and I did some research, and I found a Chromebook, and I'm actually doing tonight's episode. We're going to flip back over. So tonight's slide I made in a Google presentation. So now I'm using a Chromebook that I only paid $200 for. It's a white Chromebook. It's really sleek, and I really like it. And it gets all the job done, and I can integrate my Gmail with my Café con Gas mail, and on top of that, the way that I was introduced to this option is through my brother's school, through his special needs program. He's actually receiving one of his own too. So together I figured it'd be a nice way to kind of, get updated with technology. So I'm feeling really happy about that. And on this chart, yeah, I'm feeling pretty, see this blissful, Pray and feeling blissful. So that's tonight's emotional check-in. Tonight we have a really, really special episode for you guys. We're going to have a little phone interview with Megan Feldman, who is writing a book called Triumph of the Heart, Forgiveness in an Unforgiving World. So in the name of healing arts and diversity, Megan Feldman really associates with all of these topics. She talks about really difficult circumstances, and she talks about, she focuses on a few stories in her book, one that took her around the world. And tonight, we're going to talk to Megan. Here's another picture of her. Let me just get myself out of this mix. But we're going to talk to Megan tonight, and here's another picture of her. So Megan is an award-winning writer and adjunct professor of journalism, public relations at Metro State University in Denver. She began her career as Central America-based freelancer and earned a master's from the Columbia University Graduate School of Journalism in New York City. Megan Feldman's features have appeared in magazines such as Glamour, Details, and 5280, the Denver Magazine, and in newspapers including Newsday and Dallas Observer. She's currently writing a book about forgiveness. Most of Megan's work examines the process of transcending struggle to find wholeness. To join her exploration to the nature of forgiveness, like the Heart of Forgiveness on Facebook. And ladies and gentlemen, I am very proud to present the following TED talk from Megan Feldman, and later a phone interview and emotional check-in with her. I hope you guys enjoy this clip.
So I want to tell you about a man named Azim. So Azim was born to a family of business owners in Kenya, and they fled violence there to immigrate to the US. He ended up working as an investment banker based in San Diego, and he had 2 children, Tariq and Tasreem. One morning, Azim was drinking tea in his kitchen when the phone rang, and it was a police officer calling to tell him that his 20-year-old son, Tariq, had been shot and killed. Azim didn't believe it. It was impossible. Tariq was a dedicated college student who dreamed of becoming a National Geographic photographer. He and his fiancée, Jennifer, planned to move to New York City when they graduated. So Azim called Jennifer to clear this up. But unfortunately, she confirmed that it was true. That the night before, while working a shift delivering pizza for an Italian restaurant, Tariq had been shot by a group of teenagers. Azim dropped the phone and passed out on the kitchen floor. When he came to, this one mysterious phrase rang in his mind. There were victims on both ends of the gun. There were victims on both ends of the gun. So around 15,000 people are murdered in the US each year. And the people who love them face a question. Can they forgive? Or can they not? If you were Tariq's parents, could you forgive? Is forgiveness even possible? I'm a skeptical journalist. I write about tough subjects like war, addiction, the challenges of immigrating to a new country, even terminal illness. I'm not writing for Hallmark here. And I'm especially obsessed with how people overcome the most difficult challenges. A couple years ago, I started to wonder how forgiveness might fit into that equation. I wasn't very forgiving at the time. At 33, I was struggling to make a living and fuming over yet another breakup. I was bitter and angry, and I didn't want to live that way. So I set out on an international adventure that lasted almost 2 years and turned into a book. I talked to scientists, therapists, and trauma survivors. I interviewed people about forgiving parents and violent offenders. And I traveled to Rwanda to explore the question of forgiveness after genocide. I asked people how they forgave and how it changed them. And I studied the role of seeking forgiveness too, and programs that facilitate it in schools and communities. So what is forgiveness, anyway? Put it into Google, and you get images like this. Yeah. I don't know about you guys, but that is not appealing to me. Luckily, Merriam-Webster's defines forgiveness as giving up resentment. Giving up resentment doesn't mean excusing. It doesn't rule out justice. It doesn't require reconciliation. I interviewed people with abusive parents, and some forgave and reconciled, and others forgave and never spoke to that parent again. But either way, they gave up resentment. Now, I'm not saying we can't be angry. Anger is a natural response to pain and injustice. Anger motivates action. It's when anger hardens into bitterness and resentment that it becomes dangerous. Nelson Mandela said, "Resentment is like swallowing poison and waiting for your enemy to die." It turns out that's true. Research shows that exploding in angry outbursts and repressing anger both increase your risk of heart attack over time. Did you know resentment can damage your brain? Every time you think bitterly about that person who cut you off in traffic or denied your raise request, your brain is flooded with stress chemicals that limit your ability to problem solve and make you more depressed. On the other hand, studies show forgiveness can lower blood pressure, depression, and anxiety. Now, blame doesn't only hurt us, though. It hurts other people, too. The psychological description of blame is to discharge pain and discomfort. To discharge pain and discomfort. Blame creates bullying, self-loathing, and war. Blame is violent, and forgiveness can stop the violence. You don't have to look far to see what happens when there is no forgiveness. There's estranged relatives who can barely remember why they stopped speaking. There's the war in Israel and Palestine. Now, I'm not suggesting that forgiveness can bring peace to the Middle East, but I am suggesting that the recent war in Gaza is an example of what happens when two groups are unwilling to seek and grant forgiveness. So when I started this exploration, I didn't think I was violent, but I was blaming myself for not accomplishing certain things, and that was violent. I was blaming the world for not giving me what I wanted, and that was violent. When I started being compassionate with myself, and I stopped blaming the world for my disappointments, it changed my life. So, you may have noticed that we're expecting a baby. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, and I've been thinking a lot about what I want for my son. I hope he gives people the benefit of the doubt when they make mistakes, especially me. I hope people forgive him when he screws up, and that he apologizes when he hurts people's feelings. I hope his classmates look to him for leadership and love, and that when he strikes out in the last inning, his teammates forgive him and encourage him to see failure not as a reason to hate himself, but as a tool to get better. I hope he can go to school without fearing getting shot by someone who's resentful over something that happened in the past. Forgiveness isn't about the past. It's about the future. And that future starts now, with small choices. Like realizing that your spouse yelled because she was tired and not yelling back. Listening more and judging less. Not beating yourself up for that mistake you made a year ago, a month ago, a week ago, or this morning. So remember Azim, the international investment banker who lost his son Tariq to a shooting while he was delivering a pizza? Azim decided to forgive the killer of his son, Tony. He learned that Tony was a troubled 14-year-old kid who was trying to impress a group of older gang members when he shot at Tariq. Azim went to visit Tony in prison and forgave him, and Tony wept and apologized. Azim reached out to Tony's grandfather, too. And today, they speak together to students in packed auditoriums like this one. They take the stage, and Azim says, "His only grandson shot and killed my only son. But we're best friends. And we're here today because we know that each and every one of you is special. And we don't want any of you to end up dead or in prison." So I want to leave you with one question tonight. What's possible on the other side of seeking and granting forgiveness? Getting a good night's sleep for once? Having a happy marriage? Ending a war? What do you think is possible for you and for the world?
That was Megan Feldman's TED talk from TED Boulder, and I was incredibly moved by this talk. I thought Megan was really incredible, so I reached out to her via Facebook. I had the great fortune of being part of a beautiful wedding ceremony with Megan in Colorado. She's an incredible woman. I got to speak with her I heard a little bit about the story before the TED talk, and I love this question right here: what's possible on the other side of seeking and granting forgiveness? I think this is just such an important question, and Megan really addressed this on the TED talk, which began as a single event in 1984 and has grown into a large group of people spreading ideas. So we're going to do a little bit of a call-in, and Megan's going to call the studio, and I'm just going to forgive me for not giving you my undivided attention in this moment, but I have to look for this tiny little tiny little green light that's gonna buzz on when Megan gets my text message in Colorado to join us here live on the studio. So again, I just wanted to bring up another really incredible quote from her interview from her talk titled "Forgiveness in an Unforgiving World." There were victims on both ends of the gun. I thought this was a really profound comment by the father who was mourning his son's death and forgave his son's shooter, Tony, who was a very troubled youth, trying to show off for people in gang violence. So here's Megan now. So we're going to go back to her, and we're going to get her live. Hello, Megan?
Yes, hello.
Oh, hi. You're live in Cambridge. Hello, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks so much for joining us. I have to share something really beautiful with you. We have the way the studio is brought up, the way the studio is constructed in Cambridge is that you'll see the shot of me live, but on my left there's a big glass pane, and they play the show live while I'm doing it. And there was a line of people outside who kind of stopped, and even though there wasn't audio, they were watching you do your TED talk. So you drew a crowd just by your sheer presence.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That was pretty cool. So in addition to your your incredible presentation of your work and this research you've done as a reporter, I've learned tonight that you also have a very compelling presence on stage, that people were looking and seeing what's going on. So yeah. So welcome to Café.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. How are you this evening? Can we do a little emotional check-in? How are you feeling this evening?
Sure. I'm feeling good. I just actually had my family in town for the weekend, and we had a big baby shower party last night. So it was it was a fantastic weekend.
Congratulations. That's wonderful. Yes.
Thank you.
So we just watched your talk, Forgiveness in an Unforgiving World, and I have a little slide actually pulled up, and it's a quote, one of the quotes from your talk that says, "What's possible on the other side of seeking and granting forgiveness," which was really a takeaway point that I got as a viewer of your talk, that really made me think of my own life, what forgiveness plays in my life. And I'd love to know, the audience would like to know, how did you get onto that TED stage? How did you connect to that experience?
Well, it started when I met Azim Khamisa, actually, because I did a story about him for a magazine, and I was just so taken with him and Pless, the man who he works with. And I wanted to learn more. So that basically got me started on the book project. And then someone suggested to me that I toss my hat in the ring to do a TEDx talk. And I thought that would be, a great experience and a great way to share Azim's story and the message of forgiveness. So I decided to do that. And I was lucky enough to be selected, and I got to speak, which was a great experience.
That's incredible. Was there any training that you had before that you went on stage, or was there some type of preparation into giving your talk that you'd like to share?
There was a lot. I was lucky enough to be recommended to a woman who's in Boulder, who's got a company called Evoso, which stands for the Evolution Society. And her specialty is helping people develop their platforms and helping people speak and really tailor talks that have the power to, alter the world in some way, potentially. And so I got to work with her. I did a workshop there were about 12 of us, and it was 3 days, and that was a fantastic opportunity and really helpful. And then once I wrote the talk, I probably practiced it 3 to 5 times a day for a few weeks before the event.
Wow. Did you practice it by yourself? Did you practice it with someone else? Or it was just like a constant, constantly on your mind?
I did both. When I was walking to work, I have about a 30-minute walk to work and each way. And so I would rehearse the talk out loud twice on my walk in, and then usually at least once on my walk back. And then I did I gave the talk to a friend who I respect for feedback, and then I gave the talk to my company, which is about 35 people, and that was great practice because it was
wonderful.
Terrifying.
That's wonderful.
I had just started the job, and I was really nervous.
Wow. Speaking of nervous, how did you feel before you got onto the stage? I mean, what was going through your mind, and how fast was your heart beating?
It was akin to, I've never jumped off a cliff, but it felt like that's what it was to me. I've always been, pretty scared to speak in front of a crowd, and there were more than 2,000 people there, which was very intimidating to me. So it really felt, those last 2 minutes before I walked onto the stage, I felt like I would imagine it would be like to jump off a plane, when you go skydiving.
Right.
It was crazy.
That's incredible. I mean, they're just exciting. You can really just from the, I encourage everyone watching right now to browse through more of the TED talks, because you really get a sense. You don't have any cards to read, correct? I mean, is it all from memory?
Correct.
Okay, so it's just a general memory, your story, yourself, your message. Wow, that's really incredible. So one of the things that I found really thought-provoking and also moving about your talk was the story of Tariq and how he was able to forgive Tony. And for me, I really took away, and I still am thinking about today, and I first watched your talk when it came out online about a week and a half ago, and I scooped it off of my Facebook feed. But Tariq brings the very powerful message that there were victims on both sides of the gun, both ends of the gun. Has that been a theme throughout your study of forgiveness? Because you mentioned how this journey of writing your book, The Triumph of the Heart, Forgiveness in an Unforgiving World, led you to this, 2-year global journey. Has that come up often for you in this?
Yeah, it has. It's come up quite a bit in the context of empathy because the research says that one of the key factors in being able to forgive is being able to empathize with the perpetrator. And so it did come up in a number of other situations where someone was hurt by someone else or by a group of people. Yeah. And part of what enabled them to let that go or to understand what happened and to forgive was being able to imagine to some degree being in the other person's shoes and having some understanding that, there is choice and there is free will, but there are also circumstances that really impact people's lives. And, like circumstances influence Tony's life.
I thought it was really powerful how you talked about Tariq, but you also talked about, and this is live, so we have about a minute left, which I wish we had a half hour left. But it's hard, Megan. You're incredible. I want to ask you many questions. But I want to commend you for your courage and ask you, what did it feel like as a journalist witnessing and absorbing so many stories to share the ultimate compassionate act for yourself and share the journey, how you've, confronted your own life, and no longer blaming people. How did that feel to do that as a professional storyteller?
It was really moving for me because I don't tend to talk about myself a lot. I'm more used to interviewing people and sharing other people's stories. And the past 2 years have been incredibly impactful for me personally doing this research. And so to be able to share, the personal experience of it